right, a happy day to everyone. It is January the 20th with 346 days left in the year. More importantly, only 11 episodes left until we change over to our new format. Looking forward to that. So this is your daily devotional, the thought for the day, 10 minutes together. Fun facts, scripture, a little bit of history, maybe a joke or two at the end. You never know, so stick around. But if you're new to the channel, we'd appreciate it if you would subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Click a like, and most importantly, share this with a friend, and be glad that you are here watching this early, and be one of the ones to say that you were there when we made the transition to the new format. All right, let's get into it. Are you ready? Here's your scripture of the day. Proverbs 3:19. The Lord by wisdom hath founded the earth. By understanding hath he established the heavens. For those of you that are reading the Bible in a year, it's always a good goal, as we say. You're up to Genesis 49 to 50 and Matthew chapter 13, 31 to 58. Motoring along. Here's your thoughts for the day. Just because someone doesn't love you the way you want them to, doesn't mean they don't love you with all that they have. And even though I have the right to be angry, but that doesn't give me the right to be cruel. Honesty, well, it isn't a policy at all. It's a state of mind. Here's your motivation for the day. Don't let what you can't do interfere with what you can do. On this day in history, 1841, Hong Kong is ceded to Britain after the Opium Wars. China does a lease with them. 1942, Nazi officials meet to organize the final solution, the extermination of the Jews. Sad point in history. And in 1964 in England, the start of the trial of the great train robbers. Here's your personal story for the day. Faith stands alone. Hebrews 11, that's your Faith Hall of Fame. It's a cast of characters, all who had great faith. From the first verse all the way to the middle of verse 35, you get to hear success stories of the heroes of faith. But there's a dramatic change beginning in verse 35. Others were tortured. Still others were chained and put in prison. They were stoned. They were sawed in two. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins. These two were heroes of faith too, but their circumstances were very different. Still, they had faith in God. Why? Because faith is unrelated to our circumstances. Now, if you have faith in the righteous character of God before tough times come, that faith will see you through the tough times as well. If you aren't already convinced of God's righteous character, the moment disaster strikes is no time to wrestle with that issue. Do you want to please God today? Then don't allow your circumstances to determine or dictate your faith. Have faith in God. He can change your circumstances, but He Himself cannot change. Jesus Christ the same yesterday, today, and forever. Here's your devotional thoughts of the day. Daniel 2:22. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. References from Genesis 40 to 41. Convicted of murder in 1984, Darrell Hunt spent 18 years in a North Carolina prison. But recently, DNA evidence led police to another man who confessed to the killing and testified that he acted alone. A judge voided the charges against Hunt. The governor issued a pardon, and the wrong man became eligible for financial compensation. Finally, my innocence is recognized, he said. For so many years I've been trying to prove my innocence, only to be told I was lying, and to finally have it officially means a lot. You know, Joseph is the story we're talking about. He must have been feeling the same when he was finally released from prison. Unjustly accused and imprisoned, he was handed a golden opportunity to interpret dreams for Pharaoh's baker and cupbearer. As with Daniel, quoted in the above verse, God gave him the interpretations so that he would receive blessing in a pagan land. Both interpretations came true. One man was executed and the other was pardoned. Now, we might naturally think the pardoned man would have supported Joseph's opportunity to regain freedom. Well, he kind of forgot about it, but once again, Joseph regained his freedom after the cupbearer was there and eventually realized, oh yeah, I got this guy Joseph that might be able to do that. It took some time, but God's intervention and Joseph's faith had not failed. But from God's point of view, he was saving Joseph from the main event. Now, Pharaoh had a dream, and the pieces of the puzzle started to come together. The wise men of Egypt could not interpret it, and in the midst of the crisis, the cupbearer finally remembered, hey, I know this guy Joseph. All right, he was brought before the king, and with everything to lose, Joseph boldly gave God the credit and correctly interpreted the dream as a warning of famine, and even made a policy recommendation about gathering and rationing of food. Well, Pharaoh was obviously impressed of the discerning spirit of God in this young man, and he appointed him to the high court as an official. Basically, he was the prime minister, second only to Pharaoh and the minister of agriculture, etc. So Joseph was only 30 years old, and it had been 13 difficult years since his teenage dreams. And in the blink of an eye, God's power had taken him from the bottom to the top. Finally, giving good when getting evil. 1 Samuel 24, 17 to 18. And he said to David, thou art more righteous than I, for thou hast rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded thee evil. And thou hast showed this day how that thou hast dealt well with me. For as much as when the Lord had delivered me into thine hands, thou killest me not. David chose to let God be his example. When Saul entered the cave to attend to his needs, he was using the toilet or the privy, he didn't know that David and his 400 men were hiding in the recesses of the cavern. David had him at a severe disadvantage, and his men urged him, seize the opportunity. God's brought him to you. Take him now. But David refused. Rather than seeking to repay Saul for the evil he had done him, he secretly went up, cut a little piece of loincloth off of Saul's robe as proof that he could have cut him through right there, and allowed the king to leave without knowing how close he'd been to death. Only later did Saul realize the mercy David had shown. God's way is to show mercy rather than extract vengeance. Romans 5:8 says, but God demonstrates his own love towards us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Even while we were God's enemies, he had compassion on us and provided a way to salvation. Are you thinking about getting even with someone? Don't do it. Try God's way instead. Return good for evil. Someday you'll be glad you did, and the Lord sees all and will bless it. That concludes today. Here are the facts. The female lion does 90% of the hunting. And gorillas sleep as much as 14 hours per day. All right, here's your closing thought. Lord, help me to remember that I can't always fix things. Help me to always put my trust in you. Yes, I know you've been wanting some jokes, so I came up with one. Can you believe there's many awards shows, and at this time of year, you get it on. There's an award for this, award for that. Well, now, of course, and many of you already know this fact, they have an award show for commercials. It's called the Cleo Awards, and it's a whole show full of commercials. So here's what you do. You record it on your PVR, DVR, or whatever system you are using to record it, and then you fast through the whole thing. That's all I got. Thanks for coming. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow. 10 more episodes starting tomorrow. The 10 countdown.